Do you have a position on Amendment 60, 61, and Proposition 101? And please state that position. We'll begin with Ellen.
I too, like Don Quorum said, I understand where the sentiment came behind these. I was a no vote on the FASTER bill. I certainly would like to see us look at repealing or over a period of time looking at repealing the FASTER bill. I think that was inappropriate to pass that bill. It was against Tabor. But all the same, when you look at 60, 61, and 101, I believe the impacts on the ground to local government will be huge. We don't have the ability at the state level to backfill that. I spent a lot of time last night at a Tea Party 912 meeting in Cortez, and we had a spirited debate about 60, 61, and 101. I wasn't there for that, but I think it's very important for people to realize who those districts are. Those are your local people. Again, going to fire protection districts, mosquito control districts, your school districts, you have locally elected people. I'm going to say that's the best level of government, is the most local.
Thank you. Bruce?
Thank you. The answer is very easy. I am a no, I'm a no, and I'm a no. I think the combined effect, or even just the individual effect of any of these bills on the government that we currently have in place would be crippling. Not only to state government, to local government, to districts, to water districts. These impacts are widespread. The impacts to school from Amendment 60 would be about $1.5 billion when it's initiated, and that's supposed to be backfilled by state government. There's no money to do that. Also, Amendment 61 would limit the time that you can go into debt to a 10-year period for, say, funding a water supply project or water treatment project. That'd be like trying to buy your $250,000 home on a 30-year amortization. 101 talks about reducing vehicle registration fees to $2 or $1. That is what funds our highway infrastructure, as well as it would have major impacts to telecommunications and some of those fees collected to help us in rural Colorado get service. So I'm against all of them, no.
Ellen, your response.
And again, I want to go back to where did they come from and what was the sentiment that the people had when they put these forward. When state government runs amok, which I feel it has over the past 4 years, when you have the FASTER bill go through on such a quick time frame, and it didn't just have money in there for roads and bridges safety, there were a lot of other things in there. So you look at the mill levy tax increase that Governor Ritter put forward that passed. That's where this is coming from. I think the way we avoid these is if we listen to the people, we be more responsive, and we respect Tabor. Again, the state of Colorado, whether you like it or not, Tabor exists. It needs to be honored. It's part of our Constitution. And that's the pushback that we're getting, I think, with these ballot initiatives. All the same, we have to stand up and we have to look at the practical impact. And I, for one, living down near the Animas River Valley, know the importance of mosquito control. I, for one, living in the shadows of the fires in 2002, know the importance of a fire district for them to be able to come and stop the fire near my home. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce?
Thank you. I believe there is some anger out there, and that is where these amendments have initiated. But again, I think they all should be defeated. But I would like to comment on the discussion that my opponent brought up regarding FASTER legislation. I wasn't in the legislature when FASTER was passed. Instead of talking about it, I actually did repeal a part of that, and that was the late fee on the late fee for registration of trailers. I heard from a number of constituents, maybe some of you in this room, there was actually a $100 fee. And for folks who use their trailer maybe once a year for camping or for hauling wood, maybe they have 2 or 3 trailers. Folks in the ag industry had concerns about that, so I introduced a bill with bipartisan support which reduced that fee from a maximum of $100 to $10. It was actually Senate Bill 198.
Thank you. Next question from the cards. Why should I vote for you based on issues alone? We'll begin with Bruce.
Thank you. Based on issues alone, there are a lot of issues out there, so it might depend. But I think you should vote for me because I'm hardworking. I'm a non-typical type of politician. I'm new to politics, and I can tell you I had a major impact in the state Senate this year. I was accused of being very bold, and I actually took that as a compliment. I believe that I can represent rural Colorado and not cater to special interests in Denver. And in regards to water issues, it's safe to say that I am the water expert in the General Assembly. My opponent has said there aren't many lawyers in the General Assembly. Actually, it tweaked my interest. I went back and did a rough count from a year or so ago, about 20%. There's only 2 engineers in the General Assembly, and I believe they bring a lot of logic to the bill process. There's one in the House, and I'm the other one in the Senate. And there really is nobody else with the kind of background I have with water resources in the state, and there's a need for all of us to have that expertise in the General Assembly.
Thank you. Ellen?
Well, thank you. And I don't know, there must be a lot of undercover lawyers there at the legislature, Bruce, but I sit on Legislative Legal Services. It's a committee of 10, and we don't even have enough lawyers to fill that committee, so I'm not sure who you're counting as lawyers. But here's why I say where I stand on issues. To me, I began running for this in June of 2009. The way I handle a job is I go out and I do my homework. What I did was I started coming up here to Montrose County, not just up to Montrose, but over to the west end. To me, what came very clear was forest health issues. The interplay between federal and local governments in terms of access to public lands, of course water and agriculture, of course jobs, of course energy development. Many of these things are key issues, but the way I believe a senator is going to do the best job is to know the people on the ground. Senate District 6 is very large. It's 8 counties big. I've represented the bottom 4 over the last 4 years, and I have to stop trying, so I'll finish the answer on the next question.
Okay. She's getting the hang of this. Okay. Bruce?
Actually, I would just comment that my facts came from the guidebook of legislators, which lists their occupation from 2008. It's about 20%. And also in regards to that, the committee assignments I have, again, are agriculture and natural resources, as well as transportation and the interim water resource committee. I believe these are some of the most critical to rural Colorado, and I will continue to serve on those committees when I'm elected. So I believe that's why you should vote for me in this election.
Your response, Ellen?
Where was I? What I'd like to go back to is, as a small business owner, I am a firm believer in the private sector. There was discussion earlier about the free enterprise system. I definitely believe at the state government we can do better. And we have to make some of these cuts, both because of the requirement for a balanced budget, but for the health of our economy. Sitting on the Finance Committee the past 2 years, I have seen some serious mistakes made, again, to create an anti-business climate in the state of Colorado. I'm proud of the work I've done over the last 4 years. I believe in reaching across the aisle when it makes sense. What I also believe, though, is standing up when the administration and the majority party, in this case the Democrat majority party, is making mistakes in the direction that we were going in. So we've got some work to do in terms of turning this state around. I, again, believe that the private sector is the right way to go. I know that firsthand as someone who has been in the private sector, who has advised the private sector. My husband's in construction, and I'll continue on the next question.
Thank you. Are there questions from the audience? Yes, Bill.
Well, I've got one close to my heart here. What do you think about the South Canal project, this hydro project, chances of that coming here? Because we've looked at it for a long time. But in particular, in the Senate, how do you feel that you could help? There may be legal problems with that to overcome. How do you think you could help get this project forward for the South Canal?
Okay. We'll begin with Ellen.
Well, what I would do is I would start with the people I know in this community, and certainly I'm not going to claim, Bill, that I'm aware of every detail on that, and I suspect that's not unintentional. But what I would say is I would check in with the people. I would start with the county commissioners that I know here. I would consult with some of the people in the community who've been very involved, whether it's Mark Catlin or Jim Hockett. Again, I might screw up some of the names, but I'll go back to my notes. I'll find the people who have helped me assess what's good for the area. I don't know if what you're talking about is funding. Again, if you're talking about funding streams, the state of Colorado is severely challenged. If what we're talking about is regulatory burden or things that the state government is doing that's getting in the way, I'd certainly look at that. But I think we have to be realistic. There's not going to be large water projects or large expenditures coming from the state for a long time. We do need water storage on the western slope, and we need to keep the water on this side for our growth, not sending it over to the Front Range.
Thank you. Bruce?
Thank you. I believe that there's a good partnership that can be built between irrigation and hydroelectricity in the state. Hydro, I believe, is a good source of renewable energy and now has been recognized in legislation as a good source of renewable energy, as low impact hydro. And that's going into existing structures such as the South Canal. One key part would be, is there a change in the timing that would take place in the diversions for the canal? And if so, do the water rights allow for that? Water rights would really be the driving force behind that. As far as legislation, as long as the water rights allow for that and they're being used for irrigation purposes and generating electricity along the way, there shouldn't be any problem. There may be funding available through the Colorado Water Resource Power Development Authority that has a hydro fund available for those kinds of projects. And I think the DMEA is working with the Uncompahgre water users to try and resolve the differences to push this project through and create about 6 megawatts of clean energy. I support it.
Thank you. Ellen, your response?
And certainly, I went to the micro hydro workshop in Uray a couple months back, and I think there's a lot of opportunity up here for hydropower, and certainly that's one of the energy sources that we should be looking at and how they can interplay with existing dam sites. It is always challenging, I understand, fiscally to add something in after a dam has been built and try and do it in a fiscally prudent way. But again, we need to be looking at all energy sources, and I hope and expect there'll be some more questions about energy shortly.
Thank you. Bruce?
Yes, I'd just like to mention the South Canal, I'm not aware that there really is any need for new dams. In fact, that is the intent of low impact hydro, is you use existing structures that are in place and put in turbines to generate electricity. So that won't have a major impact or change the regime of the stream or the river and the diversions from the Gunnison Tunnel at all.
Thank you. Other questions?